we're starting on the parental ego. We are here to raise them. How full of narcissism is that?
Welcome to a podcast about nothing with V
and AD.
Okay, guys. I'm going to control myself because we have Dr. Shefali in the house. I can't explain how much this means to the both of us, but
I only know, forgive me, because of her, but it's all been good things. She's been going on and on and on. She wants to follow the path. It's different. Yeah.
Well, not just follow the path. You actually told me before, shout out to Dr. Emma Rawlings for introducing us. But before I even knew about Dr. Shefali, you were like, hey, I really think you should do this.
Yeah, without even knowing.
And then I met you through email, and then I started learning all of your teachings. But anyway, I'm so excited, guys. Really, really excited. Dr. Shefali is a real Wonder Woman, and I don't know how she does it. Dr. Shefali is a world-renowned, look at my nervousness. Dr. Shefali is a world-renowned clinical psychologist and wisdom teacher, an acclaimed author, and an international speaker. And I just want to say thank you. I am humbled. Don't take this lightly at all that you actually took the time out to meet with us. So we'll get right into it.
Very excited to be here. Thank you for your patience in organizing this and rescheduling. So I'm here, fully present. Let's go.
Let's go. So congratulations, one, on all of your accomplishments, but superpowered. Number 3 on the New York Times best-selling list. Superpowered is not just a book. It is a how-to. It has a PDF. I have literally indulged myself into this book. Yeah. And it's on the children's best-selling list, but it is really for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, because it speaks to the anxieties that we all have and that we're so stifled by. And it really is a book that's designed for children, but it's for us all, like you said, because we've all been cut from these powers. And power stands for an acronym of presence and originality and wholeness and entering our worth and resilience. So yes, it's what we are all plagued by and what we all need to be freed of.
Absolutely. I think parents need to do this. It's not just like reading, but they need to do this with their children.
Yes. Because there are many ways that we can talk to our children that will help them open up. And if we ask them the wrong questions or we belittle their feelings, because we are a culture that's so phobic about feeling our feelings, then actually that ends up in our children even repressing their feelings more. So it's really important that parents understand how to talk about their feelings and their children's feelings in a way that empowers their children to understand their emotional terrain rather than divorce themselves from their emotional world.
So we talk about this a lot. I am a mother of 3, a wife of 1. But I have a 16-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And being a conscious parent is something that my husband and I, without even knowing what that term meant, without knowing that it was even a thing, it was something that we live by and we try to raise our kids, by. And our family. It's not just your children. It's a whole family thing. Did you grow up in a fully conscious household?
I think by default, it turned out to be a conscious household, but I don't think it was intentional. And the ways that it was in default was that I did grow up with parents who were very connected to me and very connected to my essence. However, it was default because had it been more intentional, I have to find fault, then perhaps my parents would have understood that the culture I was growing up in, which is India, I grew up in India, was extremely detrimental to the soul of any child. Why? Because the Indian culture and many cultures, including the one that is a smorgasbord here in America, they're really dictatorships in some sort of way because they mandate some prescribed perfect ways to be. And they pass that down to children. And in those unknowing ways, the culture robs the child of inner connection. So in my case, my parents didn't understand fully the insidious power of cultures that mandate children to be a particular way. So without their realizing it, they subscribed to that culture. And I indoctrinated those messages. But this is universal. It just was more obvious in India because it's so obviously patriarchal and hierarchical, but it's happening everywhere, which is why kids in America are diagnosed with an anxiety disorder to 30%. 1 in every 3 to 5 children, sometimes 50%, are diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So this cultural indoctrination that parents subscribe to is then passed down to children. And this indoctrination of that there's one way to be successful, happy, loving, beautiful, really erodes at the child's soul and then causes the child to grow up with this unabating sense of unworthiness. So this book, Superpowered, is really teaching parents and children that they don't have to subscribe anymore. And there's a reason you're anxious. And the reason you're anxious is because you've been disconnected to your true voice.
Yeah. You literally answered everything.
We can end now.
I honestly, I've sent this book to everyone. You should definitely get this book. You should get it. Your children should have it. It is the perfect gift. I will say that, not just for children, but for parents, for women who are thinking about becoming parents, for men who are thinking about becoming parents, because we have this idea of what parenting should be.
Yeah.
And I try to debunk that in every sense, every way. Like, this is not how it should be. And then, the truth is that no one really knows what they're doing. We're really just trying to figure it out, and it is okay.
Absolutely. In my book, The Awakened Family, I debunk all these mythologies that have been passed down to us about how parents and parenting should be. Yeah. And each one of them, things like our children should be happy, or love is all you need, or we need to be in control, or our children need to be successful. We all have these ideas about parenting, and they are all false. And this is why we're set up to feel shame as parents, to feel guilt, and to really disenfranchise ourselves and then our children. So my work, and it's continuing in Superpowered, is to debunk these mythologies and to really ask parents to re-examine all these pillars we've based parenting on. And the fundamental error we make is that we are here to raise our children. And when we do that, we objectify our children as somebody or something that we get to raise and contour in a fantasy of our making. This is the primary error. And to topple that is the new paradigm, or what I call the conscious parenting paradigm, which understands that we have to raise ourselves. And when we raise ourselves and use our children and that relationship as a teacher, as a guide, as an usher to our awakening, then we release our children to be free to their destiny. So we're starting wrong. We need to raise our children. Just that one sentence. is a false sentence. We need to raise ourselves. So just that, we're starting on the wrong foot. And the foot we're starting on is called the ego. We're starting on the parental ego. We are here to raise them. How full of narcissism is that? And we don't even dare to ask, well, have we raised ourselves? Have we really grown up? I say always, we're not adults just because we're chronologically have some fancy 2-digit numbers after our name.
She says that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, we're not adults at all. We're just walking, talking, serious acting out toddlers.
I say that all the time. Oh my goodness. It's like we're all 7 years old, 4 years old.
Throwing temper tantrums.
I'll give you till 7. Yes, 7 is really being very fine.
7 is the maturity of it.
Is the mature one.
7-year-olds.
And then just because we are rebellious or we have tattoos, it's okay because adolescence is a repetition of toddlerhood. So maybe we're 15-year-olds, having sex all over the place or wanting to have sex. So we think we're more grown up, but we're not. We just know how to pay our bills and flush the toilet.
Yes.
And maybe comb our hair and brush our teeth without being reminded. But this is the guise of the ego of the adult. We think we're so adult, and now we get to raise these beings, and we're just messing it all up. We're just recreating, actually, great childhood trauma. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
And as a therapist, this is what I'm undoing. And listen, this is not to put us down. I've traumatized my own child by my own wounds. And I'm not afraid to say it. This is just the way the world turns. And your kid is just going to have to, grow up and heal themselves. That's not the problem. The problem is that we think we're not creating our childhood wounds. That's where we have the danger. It's not that we're doing it and now we need to feel guilty. We need to be aware that we are and be okay with owning that and seeing the havoc that we're wreaking on the next generation, all in the guise of this parental love.
That's true. That is my mind. You said it the way I was thinking.
She said it the way it was meant to be said.
Right. I do have a question. So, as someone who doesn't have children, you speak a lot about parenting, of course. So what are some things that I can do to become a conscious parent in the future that I'm not even thinking or considering now? Because like you said, we recognize how small we are and how young we are when we do decide to have children, when we do birth children. So I want to know, what are some things that I can start to consider down the line for when I decide to have children?
Well, first, the fact that you're even talking about it as a conscious decision makes you ahead of all the rest of us who were just doing it blindly on a checklist.
Yeah.
Okay, so that in itself is something I didn't do either. I didn't consciously decide. I was like, oh, time's a ticking, gotta do this because it's the next thing on the checklist. And what will people say? So just there, and that has put you apart from the masses. Then the second thing you can do is try to heal some of those childhood wounds and understand the patterns that you get stuck in. And then understand you're still going to mess up. So when your children do arrive, you are willing and open and curious and explorative to see this relationship as an awakener. You're not going to heal completely. And anyway, even if you heal, I thought I was so healed. I was meditating. I was a psychology student. I was like, I got this. But you can't completely get anything. Life is not about getting into some perfect zone of complete consciousness. It doesn't exist. Because each new person who arrives, and we've not met our children yet, each new person arrives is going to poke at some unhealed wound that we didn't even know was there. So the point is not to be completely sewed up and wrapped up in a bow before your children come, because that's another egoic illusion. The point is to live in the moment-to-moment experience of, oh, I'm screwing up again. Oh, there it is again. And wow, what does this say about me? And how can I raise myself? So when you do have children and your toddler is going bananas, to pause and ask, well, how am I reacting? What is the energy I'm bringing? You know, when your teenager slams the door and says, you're the worst parent, which should technically happen in any normal household, then you get an opportunity to go, wow, How have I been slamming the door on my child's essence? How have I really been the worst mother in terms of connection, in terms of listening, in terms of honoring my child's being? So it's not about being perfect, it's about being open to our imperfections.
And constant self-reflection.
Constant self-reflection. Oh my goodness, constant self-reflection. Yes, you're drinking self-reflection.
Yep.
Sleeping self-reflection. And if you do that, then you are going to be always, in the present moment, learning and growing with your children.
Yeah.
So I talk a lot about transferring fear, realizing that it is something that has happened to me, whether it's just in conversation of what you don't want to happen to your children, or things that, have happened to you, or those type of things. And then also transferring fear. How, I don't even know the question that I really want to ask, but it's something that I speak about a lot and I try not to do, but I realize I do often, whether it's going outside at night or, not being enough, not going to college, not getting good grades, all these fears that you have as individuals, transferring those over to your children. And
yeah. So there are psychological realities that are kind of scary. The three of us are women of color. We know a reality that maybe others don't know. Mm-hmm. There is a thing called reality. Yeah. So we do want to tell our children there is such a thing as racism. There is such a thing as sexism. And you need to be armored. There is such a thing as Photoshop. And guess what? Those women do not look like that in real life. Don't try to look like that. Yeah. So we cannot be cut away from reality. In fact, we need to be speaking about it all the time. There is such a thing as religious fanaticism. There is such a thing as othering. There is such a thing as xenophobia. These are real cultural mainstays that we need to make our children aware of.
Yeah.
Now, so there's a reality which is scary. However, you're talking about emotional fears of unworthiness, of ineptitude, of not having the resources. So we tell our children, yes, there is such a thing as racism, and this is how you handle it in your mind. There is such a thing as sexism. This is how you deconstruct it in your mind. There is such a thing as this unrealistic ideal around beauty, and this is how you nurture it when it shows up in your life. There is such a thing as taboos against sexuality. This is how you react to it when it shows up in your life. So there's two different things. And I know what you're talking about. You're talking about how we parents transfer our unending anxieties about our own worth onto our children. If you don't go to college and you're not successful and you're not skinny and you're not, as rich and wealthy as you can be, now you're talking about my self-worth. Yeah. So parents need to detangle our sense of worth and worthiness and take care and nurture that and not project that onto our children. Because once we've done the inner work, we realize, no, our children don't need to follow the metrics that culture has laid out for them. They don't need to be skinny or successful or rich in the way culture says that means worth. No, I have to take care of that worth within myself, and my child is free to be authentic to themselves, even though to me, it looks like anti-culture.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. I think in chapter 3 of Superpowered, Should It, is one that spoke the most to me. Should It and chapter 7, Cocooned.
Yeah.
Those two chapters, Should It is I think one that all parents should really take heed to, because it was done to us, and then we transfer the whole book, we transfer over to our children. But this, like, that should it thing is so serious. And having a 16-year-old daughter, you should be this, you should do this, like you just said, you should look like this. All those things are something that it's crippling. It
It's
is
very crippling.
so crippling.
Correct. And they become our internalized perpetrators. This voice becomes an internalized voice. And it starts very young in families with their traditional ways of being or religion and the church or the synagogue or the temple or whatever, telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do and what is good and what is bad. And this gets absorbed by the children very young. And it's very hard to deconstruct later in life. And we all have been plagued by these shoulds. And really, the shoulds are all based in fear. Because what the should is saying is that if you are not going to do this or be this, then you are unworthy.
Yeah.
So this if-then duality gets created in the psyche of the child and the parent, and we live in terror. Oh my God, I have to do this. If I don't, people will reject me. And what we don't teach our children is that you are essentially unrejectable. You cannot be rejected because you are always complete in who it is you are. But our children don't grow up like that because we don't grow up like that. Mm-hmm. So we are plagued by insecurity and unworthiness. We're looking in the mirror all the time for validation from the other. We want to belong. We want to fit in. And we want to be part of another person's idea of who we should be. And this is a great tragedy. And this is the essential illness of our entire culture. We're split off from inner connection. And because we are not connected to ourselves, we're lying, faking it, pretending to be someone we're not, so other people can give us crumbs of worth. We are disconnected from the animal world, and even though we are animals, but from the other animals, and we are disconnected from the earth, and we have made a big mess of everything.
Focus on self, yeah, that's true.
I think one of the videos that I've watched that resonated the most was, and talking about the whole should it thing, was your daughter is more than pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the video that you put out, you would think that you were talking to, like superpowered, it's for children, but I sent it to her a while ago, and I was like, I'm crying. Because it's so real. It's like, how are you teaching your daughters, especially, to show up? Is it, from the physical standpoint, or are you teaching them to use their voice? And I want to thank you for that video, because again, it's something that I struggle with, having a teenager now being on virtual learning, just rolling over and turning on her computer, hey, you need to get up, you need to look presentable, but that's not all it is. That's not all it's about, the look, but how are you using your voice to present yourself in class?
Yeah.
How are you showing up for yourself?
Yeah, and how connected are you to the material? And the way we've been teaching our children is really to be robots, minions in our little army. And education dumbs them down. And, they're just, by the time they're 16 or 18, they're kind of disenfranchised, disempowered, disconnected. And that's why they don't feel pretty. They keep putting Botox and makeup thinking that's going to make them look pretty. They're never going to feel pretty.
Yeah, the age for surgery is getting younger and younger and younger.
Younger and younger.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
20-year-olds are all like, they're like, you don't put Botox? And I'm like, you're 22.
I graduated high school, there were a few people getting plastic surgery as graduation gifts.
See, I heard that, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I kind of fit into both of y'all's generations. So.
She's in between.
I'm right in the middle. But I think that I didn't know that, graduating from high school. When I graduated, I realized that was actually a thing.
Yeah.
It's a graduation gift.
I know. Well, because we've just been objectified by culture, and we've objectified ourselves. And we really grow up thinking that if I just had that smaller, perkier nose, I'll be happy. And if I just had that Bentley or that fancy car, I'll be happy. And it's a real tragedy. Even on our vision boards, we're putting things and places and homes, and we're not putting ourselves on the vision board.
That's true.
We're just going to buy things and acquire things and consume things. And part of it is a process that our children are going to have to go through. I mean, I see my daughter, no matter how I teach her, she is going to succumb to culture, because culture is many and I'm one. So I also know we have to release our children into this mess that is called culture, and they have to also find their own truth in it. And if they are ready to awaken, they will. And we can't dictate their awareness. Even me, I've had to release my daughter to be an awakened being and just go, okay, if that's what works for you, being a slave to culture, go ahead. But these are the ways I'm not going to be a slave to culture.
I understand that. I have a question for that, because I feel like as much as we don't want to focus on teaching, and this is for anybody, whether you're encouraging someone or anything about their looks, you want to always tell somebody they're beautiful on the inside, or, don't really focus on it. But as we were speaking about reality is so harsh, especially as a child when you're going to school, and all you may hear is that you're ugly, or you're pretty all day, or you're fat, or you're skinny. So in a household, how would you not focus on society's culture or standards for beauty, but to still teach a child to want to, I guess, care about the way they carry themselves, in a sense, without focusing on looks? Because I still think that matters, but it doesn't have to be like, you're pretty, put on makeup,
Yeah. The sad thing about reality is that it's the most fake thing in the world. The reality we're calling reality is all lies.
Yeah.
So when we can teach our children young that it's lies, and even though my daughter used to push back at me, but now it's so part of her inner script that she knows, the magazine covers are lies, and the way culture teaches you about who's beautiful is a lie. Yeah. And how culture talks about love and marriage and divorce, lies, lies, lies. How culture talks about race, lies. So when the children realize that it's lies, the next thing to do is to just allow them to be connected to their voice. If they are connected to their voice, it is the most common outgrowth that they will take care of themselves. So when my daughter goes through a phase of not taking care of her body or herself, I don't look at it as anything but a disconnection from herself. I think to myself, wow, she's struggling. Okay. She's really not connected to herself. She must be feeling really down on herself, which is why she's not combing her hair or having a shower regularly. So when we understand that inner connection will immediately breed self-care, then we can redefine what self-care looks like. Self-care is inner connection. Now, this whole thing of beauty is what we put on top of that. It's the accoutrement, it's the extra frill that we put on it. But sadly, we've made it the main goal. Yeah. It's a frill. So if we teach our children by how we act, like, okay, now I put on a little eyeshadow or mascara, but it's just temporary, and I'm really okay with myself, then our children slowly learn, if they're meant to learn, because sometimes they could just be blocked from learning, that beauty is really just something to play with, something to enjoy, but it's not the makeup and the things you put on your face. It's really about your inner self, about your connection to yourself. That's where you're beautiful, is are you being you? But it's all twisted in today's culture. And it's very hard for young girls, and very hard for young girls of color, even more so. Because we're fighting, a standard that is simply unattainable.
Yeah, that's it. And I say that all the time, especially with the area that we live in. I see it. It's like you're confused with the age range, the age brackets. Everybody looks the same. Everybody wants to appear older. The older women want to appear younger. Like, it's crazy what people appear and consider beautiful. Like, we can't all be the same person. It's weird.
And everyone is trying to be the same person. And we are morphing into the same. This cartoon character now. Everyone wants the same cheekbones and the same color. And the same boobs and the same butt. And same it's just shape, we look ridiculous. We're looking, tragically comic. I think we just look hilarious, really. I mean, we're just becoming these little
Filters,
caricatures.
Avatar
social
filters, yeah.
media filters. We make fun of them all the time. We get on live and like, what
Yeah.
if we actually look like this? Looks crazy.
Yeah, it does. Like,
Why are we out here
And-
catfishing each other?
And if you talk to men, I mean, I'm not like I've talked to every man, but the few men I talk to, they're laughing. They're like, they're befuddled by us. They're like, what are all of you doing? But they can't say anything to us, really, because we've decided. And the most tragic thing is that we're competing with each other.
And that's the crazy part about it too. It's never. It used to be, oh, my little boyfriend, this friend, this friend. No, it's all a woman thing. It's all.
It's a woman against woman thing. And we think we're doing it for ourselves. We're actually decimating ourselves. And we're like, no, I like to wear my 7-inch heels. No, we don't. I don't. I hate it.
hurts.
When I wear my 7-inch heels, it's not because I like it. It's because I'm insecure and I want to look taller. I admit it. I don't pretend I'm comfortable in these freaking crazy heels. I'm completely uncomfortable, but I'm so insecure. I'm happy to say when I'm most dressed up, it's actually I should wear a t-shirt. I'm the most insecure. That's what it is. Because if I'm totally secure, like we are in the pandemic, suddenly all of us are wearing pajamas.
Yeah.
What happened to the let's wear heels because it makes us feel good? No, obviously we're not wearing heels because it doesn't make us feel good. We want compliments, and only women are complimenting each other, and only women are competing with each other, and men are just laughing, and we're endorsing the patriarchy.
Very true.
We're showing the men, look, we're little objects. Then we're upset when they objectify us.
We have this conversation all the time, and I always say the best compliment is when it comes from another woman, another female. It makes you feel the best because the fact
But we're
that
only wanting a compliment from the women because the men don't know about the shade of lipstick and
the
the proper
details,
shoes.
they don't care.
Men are not paying attention.
They don't
Now,
care.
do they like, the curves and to see? Of course. And we are actually giving them what they like, which actually oppresses us back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we are only dressing up for compliments from women.
That is so true. We just did we just had a episode about like Valentine's Day and how we want men to actually notice the detail. If my eyelashes are lifting in the corner, we want you to say that. Like, say, you look nice, you look amazing, but that eyelash is
Right.
lifting. It means that you're actually paying attention to the detail, which in reality,
They're not.
they're not. They
But I
absolutely
think that's so freeing. I don't want a man to notice whether my eyelashes.
really.
No, I don't. It would like oppress me. It would suffocate me. I'm like, what the hell are you noticing such rubbish for? so the day that my eyelashes are drooping to my knees, you're going to not like it? Like, it puts more pressure. I
That's a
want
way to
us to
think
live
about
in
it.
a world where we all are just confident in how we are. And, the sad thing
Don't
is
look for anything.
none of us are. We all like compliments. And
We do.
we do.
So all
We
like
just
to
have to
feel
accept it.
accepted.
But at least if we accept it, we stop pretending that
It
we
doesn't matter.
are doing this for ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't even see ourselves when we go out.
Yeah.
All we see is how other people, see us, and we are always sizing up other women. Am I looking better than the other women? We're doing this. And we're acting like we're in a sisterhood. And this is the tragedy. Sisters are undermining sisters.
Yeah.
Actually, we all want to be in our sweatpants and yoga pants. But that one girl who's wearing that short dress and she can't even bend, she's ruined it for everyone else now. Because
we all
now
have to go wear
we're all like, we all have to dress up. But if we all made a pact to all show up without makeup and in our sweatpants, we would all relax. In my conferences on day 4, because it has to be only after the first 3 days of dressing up, I do tell women to come without their makeup. Like, come, we're going to meditate. It's the day of meditation. Can we all not dress up? And it's so hard for women to do. It's so hard. And
I
then we
can
talk about how
imagine.
insecure we feel, being barefaced.
Yeah.
Walking outside.
Men don't have
nothing
this
on.
pressure. Men don't have this pressure. Look at how scruffy they are.
And they should.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. Like, the only thing we can do is get a haircut. That's the only thing they can do.
And we're
Well, they can do
close.
other things too, but we are not putting pressure on them
Yeah.
because we're just putting that pressure on ourselves, and we're killing ourselves with, these corsets that we wear and the Spanx that we wear. And, why? Because we can't accept that, some of us are not going to be that buxom babe. And that's okay.
Yeah.
We all want to be that buxom babe. And that's not possible. So we have to teach our daughters, it is what it is, It is what it is. My daughter, when she was young, she used to make fun of my arms, my flabby arms, like here, the helicopter wings. And I remember wanting to tell her, that was rude, and I'm still beautiful. And I then realized she's right. I have helicopter wings under my muscle. I have muscle and then I have helicopter wings. And it's okay. Why do I need to be perfect? And it is this relentless search for perfection that has driven us women crazy.
Yeah.
We need to accept, I have cellulite. Yeah, I have, a small chest. Yeah, I have flabby arms. Yes, I have wrinkles. What? Look at men, as if they are all Greek gods walking around. Oh my God.
That's the truth.
True.
So we are driving ourselves crazy, and we need to stop, because that's the only small chance our daughters have to have another model of a mom who's at ease with their own face and body. Like I tell my daughter all the time, it is what it is, Maya. This is how your mom is. This is how she looks. It is what it is. She'd be like, can you please just dress up a little bit? I'm like, no, not today. Today, this is what you're going to get,
Does she really say that to you? Because what? You're absolutely gorgeous. If you dressed up anymore.
I know, but to my daughter, I'm just, plain old Jane and embarrassed.
You're just mom, huh?
They humble
just
you
mom,
so
yeah.
much, I'm sure.
Yeah, they definitely. Daughters especially, humbling you. Speaking of perfection, in chapter 7 of Superpower, Cocooned. Again, another chapter that really resonated with me, because you talk about perfection and being a perfectionist. And it is one thing that I think a lot of us say when we go in interviews. What is your biggest flaw? For all of you out there, I'm a perfectionist, and I'm so hard on myself. But the both of you, shout out to, is it Rini or Renee?
Rini J, yes.
Thank
She's
you.
The fabulous mastermind really behind this book.
Amazing. But it's something that you both debunk, because you talk about perfection is not about doing everything right, but is about not doing anything at all, really. Avoiding doing anything. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more for anyone listening?
It's the two pendulum swings of this feeling not good enough is in either acute perfectionism, we call it perfectionitis. You're plagued with this sickness that everything needs to be amazing, perfect. You need to be at top of the line in everything. Yeah. And then the other way the pendulum swings is because you're plagued by perfectionism, you end up being paralyzed. You don't take any action. You just give up. And many of our children give up around adolescence. They're like, you know what? I can't do this well enough. It's just impossible. So the not good enoughness shows up in these two ways, and it's so sad. And then our kids procrastinate. They're called lazy. They're apathetic. It's because they're full of anxiety, really.
I believe it.
The fear of failure. The fear of failure.
That's why I always say that I'm slow to start stuff. I'm very slow to start anything because I recognize that about myself. Look at me.
Yeah, you want to make the right decision. Mm-hmm. And sometimes in wanting to make the right decision, you take years to make the decision.
Yeah, you procrastinate, you take years, you're slow, you feel like you're left behind. It creates a whole nother world of problems, But
the beautiful thing is to recognize, okay, hey, I'm slow to start because I'm really nervous. But then actively work on that when a big decision needs to be made. It's okay to be slow to start. It's okay to be like that. The others who are on the other side need to know I'm a perfectionistic freak, and I need to recognize that. It's really what I'm speaking to in all of this is owning who you are, whether it's wrinkles or it's your perfectionism or it's your jealousy or it's your insecurity. Call it what it is. Don't disguise it and suppress it. Because then you are actually working against yourself. You're allowed to be any sort of crazy you want to be, but call it what it is,
Recognize
you
it.
know.
That's true. See?
See,
Nobody has it all together. That's an illusion.
I mean, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We speak about this all the time. I'm like, what? I have no idea what I'm doing. All my kids are very different. And, you have to kind of adjust to who they are, allowing them to be them, accepting them for who they are as people, which is very hard for us. And I think, especially for the older generation, like AD. But quick story. My daughter called me one day and we were doing an episode in the middle of the episode. And she said, your son wants a pedicure. I was like, okay, give him a pedicure, right? No big deal. She said, yeah, but nah. He wants glitter fingernail polish and he's 5. I said, oh, okay. Because my niece and my daughter were painting their nails. He has no idea what's for girls and what's for boys, even if that's even a thing. And of course, my initial response was like, not out loud, because I feel like I am a conscious parent. I was like, no, it's for girls. So what I said, because I figured that she had me on speakerphone, was, when he's 10, then he can make the decision whether or not he wants fingernail polish or not, because my daughter's 16 and my niece is 18. I was like, big kids make those decisions. You can't make that decision yet. So, or not even decision. I said, big kids don't wear fingernail polish. I mean, little kids don't wear fingernail polish, only big kids.
Right.
And he was okay. Didn't he say, okay?
Yeah.
He was okay with that. But in your mind, you're like, how do I explain girl and boy to them? Or how do I explain what girls do and what boys don't? But it really is allowing them. And I think Alicia Keys did a really good job with this. Allowing her son to be who he was when he wanted to have fingernail polish on. And I think we all struggle with that, allowing our kids to be exactly who they are, because we weren't taught that.
Yeah, you
had a fear that he would put it, and then you had a whole movie playing out.
Yeah.
And then he, and you have some ideas around how boys should be. Actually, it's just, he's just putting color, like a felt pen. That's all he thinks it is.
It was pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Everybody likes
fun.
pretty things.
So fun. It's really it was just a moment of spontaneity and fun. But in your head, you were entering the duality that culture has put. Oh, girls and boys, and old and young. And so you made it way more complicated. Even if you had said, sure, and he had done it, he would have even then forgotten about it. Like, you thought it was like endorsing some big way of being. And then what if he marries 10 boys in the future? You had created this whole dynamic.
Yeah.
And you weren't in the present moment, or you just wanted to have fun and be included with the 2 girls,
Yeah.
You gotta let loose.
Which is okay. He was okay with it, he rolled with it and moved on. But had he wanted it more emphatically, it could have then been a problem if you had kept saying no. Now, you could all obviously say no and pull your authority, but really, what are you saying no to?
Yeah.
You're
And
saying no to the
the
movie in your head. Because he's just asking for fun. That's all.
He just wants something pretty. It was the same thing with My Little Pony. Again, I grew up in a very, I guess you would say, traditional household. Right. Men are men, women are women. Women do certain things, men do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And me growing up in a very different era, I tried to let all that go, but it's very hard when you're raised a certain way.
Yeah.
So My Little Pony, when I was growing up, I loved My Little Pony, and it was a girl thing. I never knew of a boy watching My Little Pony until my son said, I want to watch My Little Pony. I said, well, that's for girls. He said, but he's a boy pony. And I said, touche, son, touche. And that was all.
So now you have very rigid, clear, marked differentiation between what your girls are allowed to do and what your boys. And as a conscious parent, what you can do is be open to exploring, which is what you're doing, and ask yourself, why? What am I scared of? What is this culture, or is this a real threat? And most of it you will see is culture.
It's culture. Yeah. Yeah. I just have one more. Do you have any more questions? Because I have one more question for you. One more statement. You speak around the world. And growing up in India, my husband and I have this debate a lot about people. He's Liberian and Ghanaian. And he says that anxiety, depression, all these things are a first world problem. Mm-hmm. You being a conscious coach, a conscious parenting coach around the world, how do you feel about that? But two, how do you feel about
the struggles of parenting the same around the world?
Yeah, I guess that really is the question.
Well, they're different. I mean, I totally get what he's saying, and people from other countries that would similar to his and mine will understand. What he really means is, you guys are, this is how I grew up too, like so much wealth and privilege, and you're like worried, and like, what are you worried about? We don't have electricity, we don't have water. Mm-hmm. How homes are flooding because of poor infrastructure. Our kids don't have food. They're beggars swarming around us at every traffic light. People with polio and paralysis. So what are you so upset about in America? It's like we laugh. We have a resilience about us that is born out of great strife and seeing a lot of harsh reality. So I don't want to be simplistic to say you people and us people, but I understand what he means.
It is a thing. Like, it really is. I'm sorry to cut you off.
We don't use the word stress or anxiety really, because we're always stressed. Like, we don't know any other way. So we've learned to be joyful in there. We've learned to be resilient. We don't even look at stress in the same way, because we have so much stress that we don't worry about, my boyfriend called me fat, or, oh, my nose is not so beautiful. Like, we can't worry about that stuff. We're like dealing with life. Yeah. And that doesn't mean we're better. It's just a whole different way of growing up, which is why I annoy my daughter a lot, because I tell her, like, if she's crying over something that means something to her in America, but I remember in India dealing with other stuff, I'll poo-poo her, and I'll be a little bit dismissive. Of course, I'm aware of it. And I'll be like, psh, girl, you should grow up in India. You won't be crying about this rubbish. Yeah. But it's terrible that I do that. But I do it because I go, are you seriously crying because your shoes didn't come in the right size, or your sushi is tuna instead of salmon? Like, your Uber Eats messed up on your order? Are we really crying about the Uber Eats order?
I've seen those tears before too.
Do you not realize those are first world problems? Like, what are we crying about?
Yeah.
I can be dismissive because I'm like, are you serious? Like, give me a break. So, on the other hand, I'm also aware that people in America overindulge ridiculous anxieties in their children. Oh, you have a pimple, let's go, I'm like, you have a pimple, you have a pimple. Have the pimple for 10 years for all I care. In India, you have a pimple, you have a pimple. You have torn clothes, you have torn clothes. So this overindulging and entitlement that is very much part of the first world problems, first world indulgences needs to be curbed a bit, and people need to travel and see the rest of the world.
Yes.
And understand that they're very, very I see it with my daughter. She has issues that are not issues.
Yeah.
So now, what can we do about it? Do we just keep invalidating them and dismissing them? No, but we also don't indulge them. So I refuse to indulge. I go, I'm so sorry your Uber Eats delivery guy messed up on your order. You're going to have to now make your own food. So sorry for you. So I'm not going to indulge her. However, parenting around the world actually at the end of the day is quite similar. Because even though we in India cannot be, crying, boohooing over shoes and Uber Eats, we boohoo over the same stuff at the end of the day. We all want our children to be trophy children. We all want our children to make us feel good. We all want our children to be obedient little minions in our army, period. And children who are not are holy hell, and we want them, to go to China or something. So yeah, we don't want children who are defiant all over the world. We call defiant children bad children. That's it.
Yeah, and I think, to that point, I noticed that more, I guess, foreign kids' parents, my husband, your family, it was doctor, lawyer, engineer, be the best, be the best, be the best. As we are like, we just want you to be happy and free. We want you to live.
But both come from parental ego. Happy and free, or happy and whatever, is also your desire for your children. You can't desire happiness for your children.
Yeah.
Happiness, who is really happy all the time? So to say, I just want my children to be happy is insanity. It's you should not want anything for your children except that they should want things for themselves, and if they choose a life of drugs or crime, of course you're going to help them not to. But at the end of the day, they have to awaken to their own inner divinity. You can't give them that. They have to realize that. You just have to stop standing in their way.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. I literally can talk to you for hours, and
I want to talk to you again too. I feel like there's more I can learn.
Absolutely more that.
I appreciate it. I have a new book coming out in May. It's called A Radical Awakening. It's for women, and it's fabulous. So you can post that too when you post this interview.
We definitely will. And I saw that. And so were you writing 2 books at the same time?
Well, superpowered, really. I was the second author, so my brilliant co-author Reenie Jane was taking the lead on that while I was writing my other book. So
yeah.
You are busy.
I told you, real life Wonder Woman. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have been with you. I look forward to the release of the podcast.
For all of our listeners and viewers, your doors are now open for the Coaching Institute.
Yes.
Please tell us
just Coaching Institute.
Yes.
The doors close by February 15th or 20th. So yes, if you're looking to be a conscious parenting coach and do this work out in the world, then look up my website and, explore what it means to be a coach.
And we will post the website on our website and on all of our social media. Ask for a Valentine's Day gift. If you don't celebrate Valentine's Day, this is the perfect gift to give, your future wife, your mom, anyone. I really do believe it. Every parent, please get superpowered. And it's not just for your children. It is definitely for you as well. The conscious parent, amazing. Also, the Awakening Family, that is now our date night. Instead of watching TV, I bought that on Audible. And so we will do that for date night. And it's another thing that I think that everyone, all of these things are not just for parents. And I think it throws people off when you see the conscious parent or conscious parenting. It really is. If you think about yourself as a child and you are thinking about having children or anything like that, just definitely subscribe, sign up for the email listing, all that stuff. Go follow, Dr. Shefali. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And please let us know if you need anything from us. I don't know what you could need, but it might be something.
Well, I'm coming with Oprah on February 13th for her Weight Watchers thing. So
again, you and Oprah are best friends.
No, but she's just very supportive. So on February 13th, like right now, in a week, in 2 weeks. So it's next week, I think. Yeah, it's next week.
Oh, nice.
It's Saturday.
Yeah. Again, another Valentine's Day gift. Never mind. Don't get that for your significant other. Tell them to lose weight But Weight Watchers is not just about losing weight, is it?
It's about inner wellness.
Look at us.
That was a catch.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.